Welcome to Linda's TV show again. You that is always tuning in to watch my program, may God Almighty bless you all. I appreciate each and every one of you. So this video you are about to watch is the Nigerian Parliament. They are deliberating, trying to challenge the UK Parliament for their sanction and threat against human rights abuse in Nigeria. This is a very serious debate and it's very long. If you want to get all the information, I will beg you to sit down and listen, and after listening you leave your opinion below. It is very, very important. It saddens my heart the way Nigeria is and everything that is happening in Nigeria, lack of insecurity. In fact, I am saddened about the whole thing. Let us listen to their debate and hear what they have to say pertaining this.
The petition by some groups and individuals calling for sanctions against Nigerian government officials over the shooting of protesters and gross human rights abuses. Members of Parliament had pressed the British government to adopt individualized sanctions, such as travel bans and access freezing against officials found culpable. But in its reaction to the debate at the Commons, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, held the view that the lawmakers do not speak for the British government, adding that it was necessary to give the United Kingdom Nigeria's own position to enable them have a balanced perspective. Well, here to discuss all this and more is a former Undersecretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and former Nigerian envoy to France, Ambassador Akin Fayomi. Welcome to the show, Ambassador Fayomi. Good to have you on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Well,
thank you very much, Dr. Abati. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much indeed. Very quickly, I would like you to help us make sense of what transpired in the Petitions Committee of the House of Commons, discussing human rights abuses in Nigeria with reference to petition by over 200,000 Nigerians over the NSAS protests and the incident at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos on October 20, 2020. Many Nigerians are concerned about this. Some are excited. Some say, well, it doesn't really matter. What do you think?
Dr. Abati, thanks again. This is the beauty of democracy, which the British Parliament is teaching us. You can see that even as far away as we are in Nigeria, what goes on here concerns them over there. In other words, the world is a global village, and we cannot be in isolation. And they felt that it's important to discuss, to debate the petition after it has been signed by people there, over 20,000, as you said. And some people think that what is the business of the UK in our affairs? I don't agree with that, because it just shows that, look, we are not an ocean. I mean, an island in an ocean. Our people are complaining. This NSAS protest started well, but it ended very badly, and the repression and all that. So the British took it upon themselves to debate it. And the proceedings, we've all seen it. We watched some of the video. We have the report. Shows that not a threat, but it could lead to them. That is, the parliamentarians are advising the British government to impose sanctions on some of our officials or the police. I've heard it said also that it doesn't really matter. But I don't think we can shrug off something like that. It's not a threat. They don't talk for the British government, like Foreign Minister Onyama said, but they have a lot of importance, within the British. The Prime Minister of Britain is a member of Parliament, and which is different from our own presidential system. So he has to listen to what the parliamentarians are saying, and so that could influence negatively, the action that Britain might want to take against Nigeria if we treat it with levity.
While it is true that the Petitions Committee in the House of Commons voted in favor of international sanctions against individuals and entities in Nigeria, we are also told that it is a non-binding vote. What is a non-binding vote? Does it mean that at the end of the day, no process may be initiated, and that whatever may have transpired in that petitions committee may have no legal weight?
No, not at all. It's not binding, but it's cautionary. From what I saw in the video, even the British government sent a minister, the Minister for Africa, to listen to the debate, and then to be able to give government's view about it. So it's not non-binding, you are right, but at the same time, the government listens to its parliamentarians, so that could make a decision easier for them to take, even if necessary. And don't forget too that our government here too, we didn't take it lightly. Minister Onyema said that we have already reached out to the UK, trying to get a balanced position. Trying to say that the debate was a bit skewed in favor of the petitioners, and that is only one side of the story. So we also have to, that is our Nigerian government, also have to engage with the UK to present our own position to get a balanced view. That will also help. In other words, the parliamentarians have started a process which can lead to sanctions if we are not careful. At the same time, if we present our own balanced view, and the British government can take a look at that and arrive at a decision. So it's non-binding, but it's cautionary, and it's important in the UK.
But how do international sanctions work? And what kind of sanctions are we looking at? And when we're told that these sanctions will target individuals and entities, well, how do you protect the country itself, Nigeria, from suffering vicariously from those sanctions? Sometimes
sanctions that are imposed have a salutary effect on the country because it brings some normalcy. You recollect that during the elections of Ondo State and Edo State, the UK and the US also came up with this idea that whoever is instigating violence or sponsoring violence might be sanctioned. That means they can deny you visas, they can close your bank accounts abroad, they can seize your properties abroad. So that is the kind of sanction. So it might not be that Nigeria itself is sanctioned, it will be individuals that are found guilty. And I think that we have to wait for the outcome of the panels of inquiry that have been set out by all the various states, particularly the one in Lagos State, so that if the army is found culpable, we know that there is a brigadier general that led them, he has a name, so that he can be sanctioned. In other words, he can be denied access to the UK and EU or the US henceforth. If he has accounts abroad, it will be frozen. If he has even children abroad, they will be expelled. So sanctions take various forms, but they actually do work. And you can see I used the Edo and Ondo elections. You can see how peaceful it went because the politicians knew that if they sanction them, it means that's the end of your movement to go for hospital treatments abroad or to send your children abroad and all that. So they are quite effective, the sanctions.
Well, but is there an international protocol in place for seeking redress?
Yes, you see, each country has the right to admit whoever he wants into his own country. There's no doubt about that. So even if there's no international legal treaty or law, I have the right to refuse you entry into my country, even if you have, if you think you have justification. So each country has the right to do that. And you cannot go to any court to seek redress and say the British have banned me from coming to UK, they've seized my assets and all that. At best, they will just tell you that you are a person of, a politically exposed person, PEP, and they will tell you to close your accounts and carry it somewhere else. They have the very right to do that.
Well, but it's not only in the UK that concern has been expressed about the hashtag EndSARS protests in Nigeria. Also in Canada, the Canadian Parliament, the Committee on Human Rights and International Development, had a special session on Nigeria. And one of the Nigerians who took part in that EndSARS protest, the lady known as DJ Switch, Catherine Obianoju Ude, appeared before that committee and made certain presentations, eyewitness account from our own perspective of what happened. Now, what are the implications of all of this? UK Parliament, Canadian Parliament, talking about human rights abuses in Nigeria. Do you think that this has a corresponding effect on the image of the country and particularly the Buhari administration?
Indeed, it does. Indeed. It's unfortunate that Nigeria is getting this international attention for negativity. You know, we wish it's for celebrations and achievements. That's the wish of all Nigerians. But for us to be debated in Canada, debated in the UK, and it also has effects with the whole of the EU and all that. It's unfortunate. It's actually chipping away at our credibility and our image abroad. It's not something that any nation wants to be in the limelight for. Human rights abuse, genocide, war crimes, and all that. Nobody wants that. We want to be seen to achieve maybe invention of vaccine for COVID-19 and all that stuff. But to be carried around the world, debated around the world about, it's not a good image for the administration that is in government right now, I must say. And then also some of the utterances of our officials in government also do not warrant, threats and all that. I think it calls for more of engagement. It just shows that the NSAS protest, you can't wish it away, you can't sweep it under the carpet. This means government has to engage more. There must be some conciliatory form of engagement instead of what we brickbats that are being thrown around right now. So it's not good for our image internationally. It's not.
Well, when the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, says that the Nigerian government is reaching out to the UK government, he didn't provide details, although I'm aware that the Vice President met with two officials of the UK government in the course of this. But of what value is that? And do you think that the Nigerian government is adopting the right approach? Although one other minister more or less said that the parliamentarians in the UK were just talking nonsense.
You are right. I think I would prefer the approach of Minister Onyema. Reaching out to the British government shows that, look, we've heard what your parliamentarians said. We want to give you a balanced view. Maybe we have our own videos, or we give you the report of our commissions of inquiry when they finished. That's the approach that nations use. It is not in the interest of Nigeria to. Because, like I said earlier on, we have business with all these countries. We have trade, we have cultural, we have consular, we have diplomatic relations. So we cannot just ignore when they tell us something like that internationally. And don't forget, it has a roller coaster effect. If the UK starts it, you have said it yourself, Dr. Bati, the Canadians also went on about it. It can go to Germany next. It can go to Italy, depending on where people send it. So the approach of engaging, I think that's the best approach, and I think that's what the Minister of Foreign Affairs was saying. Indeed, he didn't provide too much details, but he said they want to give a balanced view of what the Nigerian government is doing, and I think that's the Commission of Inquiries that is probing, that will bring out the issue. Yes, the VP met with the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs from the UK, an envoy, plus the British High Commissioner in Nigeria. Actually, it was for a different purpose, I'm sure, but then the parliamentarian sanction issue came up, and the VP also was assuring them that they will share with the UK a balanced report when we get it from the commissions of inquiry that are taking place right now. Well,
Ambassador Fayome, you served in France, where protest seems to be a part of the culture, the tradition of the people. Even as we speak, many young French, citizens are on the streets protesting instructively against police conduct, police brutality, if I may use that word, which is the phrase we use here in Nigeria, but police performance. But here in Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police says that what happened with the hashtag NSAS protest or similar protests will no longer be allowed here in Nigeria under his watch. Is that the right thing to say under a democratic dispensation?
If indeed the Inspector General of Police said that, it's very, very, very unfortunate, because you cannot, it's the fundamental human rights of every one of us, Dr. Abati, and myself included, to carry placards and protest at any time we want to protest, as long as it is done peacefully. In fact, sometimes like in France, you mentioned, the Yellow Jacket protest went on for more than a year, and we didn't see where anybody was shot or live bullets used. There are many other ways of containing protests, even when they become violent. But the right to protest, it's embedded in the Constitution for every Nigerian and every citizen of any country. But as long as you do it peacefully, yes, indeed. So the IGP cannot say they will never allow that again. I'm sure he will come out to say he has been misquoted or something. But I know that definitely. Like in France, like you mentioned, the police accompanies protesters. As long as you don't go beyond your bounds, they accompany you. And I remember that even when the NSAS started, some policemen were involved, even handing out water, handing out food, and all that to the protesters, until it was more or less hijacked by hoodlums. So the right to protest is common. In fact, that's the way to go in advanced countries, because you have they know that it's part of your fundamental human rights. You are just exercising it. So I don't think the IGP or any power here.
Hello, Ambassador Fayomi. Well, it looks like we lost the audio connection there. He's back. Okay. Ambassador Fayomi, yeah, we lost connection, audio connection briefly. So if you may just continue with what you were saying about the right to protest.
Yes, indeed. I was saying that the right to protest is fundamentally enshrined in the Constitution. So there's no way that the IGP can ban protests. He can only say you protest peacefully, or you can even accompany protesters with policemen to guide them and to make sure that they don't go beyond their boundaries. Don't forget here that in Nigeria, most of the protests will start well, but then they are hijacked by, in quotes, hooligans and hoodlums, and we now get looting. And I don't think the NSAS protest, they wanted to be looting and burning properties. No, that was not the reason for the protest. So it could be hijacked or it was hijacked, but all over the world, protests are allowed and they are done peacefully. And if they become violent, they are dispersed with water cannons and the sorts, not live bullets.
Well, I mean, as a diplomat who has served Nigeria in various missions across the world, and as someone who worked within the public service system for a very long time, the big issue we're dealing with here is the role of youths in national development. The alienation of the average Nigerian youth from the governance process. It doesn't look like, the Nigerian government has been able to find a solution to how to properly integrate Nigerian youths. The youth made 5 demands. Government says, okay, we respect these, your 5 demands. But what do you think can be done to make sure that young Nigerians begin to have a sense of hope about tomorrow and a sense of belonging, that they are truly citizens?
Yes, thank you again. I think sometimes the ball is in the court of the two sides. Let's take the NSAS protest for an example. Who are the leaders of the protest? They use the social media. They don't have, say, this is the chairman, this is the secretary, this is who will government negotiate with when you have no association, nothing institutionalized. So it becomes difficult for government to say, come to the table and let us talk. That's number one. The youth, we have many youth organizations. Demographically, Nigeria has about 70% or so of people classified as youth. That means under the age of 35. I think that's what the United Nations says. Though it makes me laugh sometimes here in Nigeria when somebody who is 50 or 60 says is a youth leader, so you wonder then who is, what is the definition of youth, So what I'm saying in effect is that the youth themselves, they own the country. They should take the mantle of leadership. How do they do that? They have to form associations whereby they can engage government. Government cannot talk to ghosts or talk to you on social media. There must be committees set up, and the youths themselves must be represented. I think the Lagos State government in the Commission of Inquiry that they set up ensured that apart from CSOs that were put in the committee, they also have members of youth organizations. So at least they will have a voice to be able to talk. But I believe that the youth themselves, have to have, we are not talking of NANS, like National Association of Nigerian Students, that's in the university and all that. But there must be some form, either under the NLC, under the trade union, that will be a youth organization that government will recognize and government will be able to call upon, if there is any unrest like we had, and say, look, control your members. Let them not go outside the range of peaceful protest. But there are really no... I said it because I tried to engage somebody in government, and they was asking me, please point to somebody that I can talk to, that we can put on the table and discuss with. And I could not. Most of these people that were on social media, they deliberately did that without having a head or secretary, so that nobody, and I can understand them. But at the same time, there must be somebody that government will engage with. As of now, there is really nobody you can point to and say that this is the representative of the NSAS protest or of the youth that we all know own this country, because they are the leaders of tomorrow.
Well, before we wrap this up, let's go back to where we started, the sanctions. Now, I mean, as a diplomat, a retired diplomat, what kind of strategy do you think that the Nigerian government should adopt in the face of this, moral support from the UK, as it were, the representation in the Canadian Parliament, the concern that has been expressed by the European Union? What do you think should be the strategy? I guess diplomacy is also about strategy. What would be the best strategy going forward so that the Buhari administration does not get, labeled, as it is happening, as an administration that is oppressing its own people?
The own people. Yes, you are very right. I like the word, the phrase you use, moral support. Because that's the right attitude to take. We should not see all these debates in the UK, in Canada, in the EU, and all that. We should not see them as interference in our domestic affairs. Some people are thinking like that. That is wrong. It's a support they are trying to give us. You have a problem with your people. How do we come in? And I also appreciated the fact that it's our people in the diaspora that started the petitions, and over 220 that was gathered in the UK alone led to the parliamentarians debating it. That's the way to go about it. We have to have a reapproachment. Our government has to be much more in a much more healthy relationship with partners all over the world. We don't have to wait until something has happened and then we use the fire brigade approach. Sometimes it's good to say, look, like the Minister of Foreign Affairs, you can call a meeting of all the diplomats that are in Nigeria, the heads of mission in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and say, look, we had end protests, we have already established commissions of inquiry. Please tell your government, please tell your people that the Nigerian government is listening and they are trying to do something about it. We are working on it. We don't have to be on the defensive at every time. If we already engage, even before people start criticizing us, you find out that we have less bad press, in that respect. So my suggestion will be a strategy of reapproachment, which means that engage with your partners all over the world, even before issues get out of hand, and then you now start making threats or being on the defensive. You don't have to be on the defensive if you are in good standing with the rest of your partners.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Akinfayomi, for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a short break now. When we return, This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show will continue. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News channel. Joining me now in the studio are Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bulitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Yemi Adamolekun is also here, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Chike Ogea, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Well, Prof, I think the natural place to start from is with you. You were Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and you are a teacher of international diplomacy and strategic studies. And your colleague, Ambassador Akinfayomi, joined us earlier on the program, talking about the debate by the Petitions Committee in the UK Parliament about human rights abuses and the hashtag EndSARS protests in Nigeria, and how that was handled by the Nigerian government. You raised a number of issues. What's your response?
Okay, thank you. Let's begin with the concept of sanction. Sanction is a critical issue in international relations. It is first of all a function of capacity and political will. Capacity in the sense that you as a sovereign state, you want to sanction another sovereign state. That means you must have the capacity more than the state you want to sanction. If you have the capacity to sanction, the political will must also be there. The political will raises the issue of reciprocity. If you want to sanction a country, and the country has the means to also undo you, to unseat you, to destabilize your policies all along, you will need to think twice before you engage in any sanction. Now, the problem with sanction is that in the context of what was discussed and raised by Ambassador Fayomi, and which you did also alluded to, is the issue of what we should consider as government. I do not agree with Ambassador Fayomi and the Foreign Minister, Onyema, when they say that, look, what transpired in the, in the Parliament does not reflect the position of the UK government. And I ask myself, when do we begin to talk about divisibility of government? We may be talking about separation of powers, true, and true enough. The judiciary, the executive, the parliament. But the contradiction that has emerged now is that the government of Nigeria is saying that it's reaching out to the government of the United Kingdom, while not accepting the parliament as part, as a constitutive element of the government of the UK. I find that one very funny. The issue is that, look, we may be talking about a separation of powers. There's no disputing that fact. But the issue is that when we apply the concept, the notion of a government, you don't talk about divisibility. We hold them responsible for whatever is happening. Now, on the many issues Ambassador Fayomi raised, he talked about international protocols. He said there may not be, or we may not directly be talking about protocol. I think that in every international agreement, there are always the do's and the don'ts. If you take, for instance, the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal, it is clearly stated that the United States cannot do X, Y, Z, must not destabilize, must not raise, talk about sanctioning Iran. That in itself is a protocol. For instance, the moment you are not supposed to execute anything, the moment you do the contrary, you are going to be sanctioned. That is sanction. In Article 2, Paragraph 7 of the United Nations, Ambassador Fayomi rightly pointed out that we should take what is happening by the UK Parliament in the context of moral support, he was agreeing with you that we should not look at it as interference. It should be noted clearly that interference is a day-to-day issue in international relations. Everybody, every country interferes. What the United Nations Charter prohibits is intervention. The mere fact that we stay here, we are commenting on what is happening, condemning Donald Trump in America, is an expression of interference. There's no disputing that fact. But when we different...
You recall that Ambassador Fayomi also made the point that, look, this is a subtle reminder that we live within a global community and that no country is an island unto itself. He made that point.
He cannot be more correct. I agree with that. Look, when we talk about interference, we talk about democracy, moral support, all those things. Please, in France, the summit, the Franco-African summit held in La Baule, in their communique, resolved that there will never be any development assistance to any country that does not accept democracy. That, look, any dictatorial regime, then you disqualify yourself. So democracy has become a desideratum. It's compulsory.
Well, Prof, let me bring Chike into this conversation. I mean, 220,000 petitions, to be specific. 118,000 persons signed the petition, whereas only 100,000 was required. Mm-hmm. And then many Nigerians are so excited. Nigerians here, Nigerians abroad. What does that tell us about the relationship between the Nigerian government and its own people at home and in this diaspora?
Okay, thank you, Ruben. But even before going into that, it already signifies that Great Britain or UK is like an outpost to our people. And I think that is one of the places, maybe there and the United States of America, where there are so many Nigerians in diaspora excelling in different things that they are doing. It is also worthy to note that even in that parliament, there were Nigerians, you know, who are members of the parliament and representing their constituencies in the UK.
Like Keto Sano?
That's
like
right.
Taro Wawoye from Edmonton.
Quite a few of them. And they are all invested in what is going on at home. And just like you said, that is why they felt sufficiently appalled by what happened, you know, with the NSAS protest. Though we are still in a situation where we still don't have the real insight and the truth of what exactly transpired on that day. Even till now we are speaking. That to me speaks volumes. But the solicitor or lawyer in me says to me, we should tarry a while. Thank God they've set up a court process which is looking into it as we speak. But the truth is that just like Ambassador Fayemi said, the world is now a global village, and that's the beauty of democracy. And I think it is also instructive that we realize that the British actually practice parliamentary democracy. So in fact, the oomph or the strength of their democracy is in the parliament.
Precisely.
You know, you understand, that's the kernel of their democracy.
The government, the foundation of the government.
Because the prime minister they want to speak to, or the foreign affairs minister they are all parliamentarians, and they are all there.
And they are all responsible.
Yes,
directly.
And they have all heard firsthand what has happened. So whether that initial bias has been done before, you know, thank God we have an obeying, you know, knowledgeable foreign affairs ministers. And just like Ambassador Fayemi said, and Professor Akintarewa also said, it is about rapprochement. It's about engagement. So they can now come in and, of course, put across the side of the government. So that's the way I look at it. And, you know, basically what we are looking at now is the way of the future. Because all countries are interrelated. And just like Professor Akintarewa says, if your situation is such that you are the one that even need them more than they need you, that obviously puts you on the back foot. Because we are the ones, our officials are the ones that run there, you know, for...
Nigeria cannot sanction UK officials.
No, we can't, because there's nothing. What are they looking for?
Why don't we even sanction US officials over the US election?
Exactly.
Sanction President Trump, for example.
The reality is that we are the ones that go there.
We are only harassing only.
Yes, we are the ones that go there. We are the one, like Prof said, we can continue to say what we have to say, like we've been talking, criticizing everything going on in the UK, in America, especially these farce of an election they seem to have just had, you know. So that's just the way it is.
No, you see, Ruben made this point. You see, it is the 220,000 Nigerians that initiated this.
Prof,
it's not just the British.
I need to take Yemi Adamolekun, over to you. I'm sure you've been listening to the conversation. Yes.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing I'd like to speak about is this whole notion, and I really thank Ambassador Fayomi for his comments and his support and reiterating that protesting is a human right. But I just wanted to sort of this whole notion of government negotiating, quote unquote, with a committee of young people, and because there wasn't a leader, then there was a problem. And this whole notion of hijack. So those two things I think are really critical in how we frame the narrative of what happened with the NSAS protest. I'll start with the notion of hijacking. In any society, even in the US, we see riots. We see stores being looted, and those sorts of things happen. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria. However, what happened that was peculiar in this case is that the thugs that were sent, or hoodlums, whatever name you want to give to them, were state-sponsored. So from what happened in Alausa, that they came off a BRT bus in Lagos, to in Abuja, where the thugs were on a police vehicle, where they were seen speaking to a police officer under a tree, where the ones that were able to be abducted by the protesters confirmed that they were paid 1,000 naira, 1,005 naira to deliberately cause havoc. So that's one thing. And the fact that the government is not talking about those ones, but focus more on freezing bank accounts of people who were legitimately protesting as their right allows them to, is an important conversation. Illegally, actually, even the CBN instructing banks to illegally freeze accounts and then calling protesters terrorists speaks to one particular narrative. And then Ambassador Fayomi talked again about negotiating. As far as the young people who at least gave the 545 demands, who were tracking the progress of the 545 demands, the messaging was very clear. This is not something to be negotiated. Over the last 5 years, you had dissolved SARS. This year, on the day that you announced the dissolution of SARS, you shot at, you water-bombed, you tear-gassed peaceful protesters. I'm sorry. Why would we negotiate?
Yemi, sorry to interrupt you. Let's take a quick break. When we return, I'll come back to you and you can conclude your thoughts on that subject. We'll take a short break now on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show, here on the Arise News Channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akintenwa, former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs and currently Director General, Bulitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Chike Ogia, former Commissioner of Information Data State, and Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. Sorry, I interrupted you earlier, Yemi, so I'm back to you now. You were responding to the submissions by Ambassador Fayomi, former Nigerian ambassador to France. If you may just go ahead.
Thank you. So I was saying that this notion of negotiating, and that's what young people really struggled with. Because what was reinforced over and over by the government of Nigeria was they were not interested in solving the problem, but they were interested in making the problem go away. So when you talk about negotiating, when people say we want to stop being killed, what's there to negotiate? What do you want to negotiate? 5 years, you've said the same thing. In the same year that you're saying you're now serious, you're still shooting at us, you're still killing us, you're still arresting us. And post the end of the physical protest online, we've seen the police promote 8 80,000, I believe it was, junior officers recently. We've seen the posturing that Ambassador Fayomi referred to, the IGP saying he's not going to allow it anymore. We've seen statements saying that police officers are allowed to use any legal means to stop a protest. So posturing and messaging like that does not communicate a government that is interested in solving a problem. So therefore, quite frankly, there's really nothing to negotiate. And that's why young people were not willing to come to a table, because the stop killing us is not a negotiable request. There's nothing to negotiate in that. So, and then lastly, just also wanted to talk about the sanctions and just how powerful that was. It was powerful to watch the numbers. I mean, at the last time that I checked, by the time it ended, 5,000 people were watching online. Arise TV was showing it live. AIT was showing it live. By the time I checked maybe 2 days ago, 100,000 people had watched the proceedings. So it is extremely powerful to see members of parliament speak to an issue that's half a mile a world away. But as we've said, there are connections, there are business connections, historical connections that make it powerful. So yes, there are particular members of the parliament that spoke. So yes, I do agree that they don't speak for the entire UK parliament. And I do agree that they don't speak for the entire UK government, actually. But I do believe that it is powerful because they are members of the UK government. They're not separate, as Prof was saying. You can't separate them. They are members of the UK government, but they are not speaking in the sense that the UK government has not decided as a collective to take these actions. And we saw that in the response of the representative from the Minister for Africa. One, he wasn't there. And second, she was unwilling to commit to anything specifically. So the sort of continued engagement is to ensure that then the UK government as a body then speaks that this is what we're going to do. We've seen it with election bans, as was referred to, both in the US and in the UK, of visa bans. And we're hoping that that actually is what comes out of this petition.
Okay, thank you, Yemi, for your insights. We'll move on to another subject of interest. Despite attempts by the Muhammadu Buhari administration to ignore it, one burning national issue that continues to rear its head in the polity is the issue of Nigeria's restructuring. Giving fillip to this clamor last week were governors of the 6 South-South states who joined several socio-political organizations, mainly from the Middle Belt and other parts of southern Nigeria, to demand for restructuring in order to ensure equity and justice for the diverse ethno-religious groups that make up the country. At a regional stakeholders meeting held with the presidential delegation led by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, the governors and people of the South-South said the people of the region were committed to the restructuring of the country. Speaking on behalf of the geopolitical zone, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State and chairman of the South-South Governors Forum said restructuring will guarantee true federalism, guided by the principle of derivation, revenue sharing, and control of resources by each state of the federation, as was the case in the First Republic. This came as the spokesman of the Pan-Yoruba Social-Cultural Group, Afenifere, Yinka Odumakin, also stated that the group will continue to support any call for the restructuring of the Nigerian state, especially on the issue of the decentralization of the police force. However, the rising clamor for restructuring was punctuated by a remark by Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State during the week, when he admitted that there was no guarantee that the 2018 report of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC on restructuring would be implemented. Well, Yemi, let me start with you. This whole debate about restructuring definitely will not go away until Nigeria decides to address it. In specific terms, the governors, the stakeholders of the South-South, they are insisting on true federalism, fiscal federalism, devolution of powers. They are even saying that the headquarters, the offices of the major oil companies should be located in the South-South, where Nigeria's oil resources are available, and that even offices of the NNPC should be moved from Abuja and Lagos back to the South-South, where Nigeria has its oil resources. What's your take on this? Restructuring means so many things to so many people. But here we have, ahead of the 2023 elections, the governors and stakeholders, the people of the South, supported by the leaders of the Middle Belt and the Afenifere in the Southwest, saying restructuring is a topic that will not go away. Your take?
Thank you. Indeed. I mean, the fact that restructuring means different things to different people, as you've stated, and also the fact that we talk about restructuring, it's also in the context of Nigerian politics comes with it with selfish interest and people posturing for how they think it will benefit them. I don't care if the headquarters of NNPC is in Kathmandu. As long as it's working, we have 3 refineries that are actually working, and we're not paying salaries to people who are not doing any work. Okay. So in that context, I think what we need to focus on is what it is that we're trying to get restructuring to do. And in my opinion, I think what it's coming out of is a sense that Nigeria is inequitable. It's not fair for every Nigerian. So regardless of if you are from Katsina or Yobe, if you're from Lagos or Akwa Ibom, that I must have equal opportunities, that I must be able to go to Lagos and be able to own land and be able to buy property and be able to run for office if I'm married there, I've lived there for 20 years, I've paid tax there for 20 years, and nobody is asking me where am I from, or I should go back to my husband's state, or whatever it is that we do these days. And so I think ultimately the conversation, and if you tie it to the call from the House of Representatives from a constitutional reform, and I think that's, for me, a conversation that we need to tie together. That if we're saying that we, the people, did not write the current constitution, and that the current constitution as is currently constituted is not equitable for all Nigerians, rather than continue this amendment and patching, let us write a new one. And in the process of writing a new constitution, we write our new terms of agreement, our new terms of engagement that speaks to fairness. And in the process of doing that, the constitution that most Nigerians don't understand, don't know, don't realize how it assigns them any rights or responsibilities, it then becomes a national conversation that we're all a part of. For me, and I think also really on the back of this NSAS protest, and young people realizing that the government they thought they had is not the government that they had. There's an assumption that because we're in a democracy, government reacts a certain way, government responds a certain way, government provides in certain constructs. So if we realize that this current administration doesn't want to do that, and the current way government is constituted is unable to do that, then our conversation around restructuring, around devolution of powers, around writing a new constitution, all of that can be under one bucket in terms of ensuring that Nigeria is equitable for all, and all of us are part of this conversation. And that's what I would like to see. I mean, I saw a statement by Governor Hope Uzodinma, for example, who is saying that people should join, the Igbos should join the ruling party so they can get their share of the cake. So if that doesn't reinforce what we talked about last week, that APC and PDP are 6 1/2 and that we take this conversation out of a political party construct, we won't make much progress.
Well, on that note, Yemi, let's take another short break quickly here on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, Professor Bola Akintenwa, former Director General, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, currently Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Chike Ogea, former Commissioner for Information Data State. Well, Chike, let me come to you now. We were discussing before we went on break restructuring. You are a South-South stakeholder. You've been commissioner in the Niger Delta. So what do you think of, the meeting by the governors and other stakeholders, and what kind of restructuring would you like to see? Do you think that the governors and the other stakeholders from the South-South have gone far enough in defining the interest of their people?
Well, let me start by saying first and foremost, I'm a Nigerian. Yes, I'm of South-South extraction. But for me as a person, and whenever I sit on a rise to analyze issues, I look at it purely from a pan-Nigerian issue. Where I come from doesn't matter. For me, as Chike Oge, restructuring is simple. Equity. That is my definition of restructuring. Does Is it equitable for you to take VAT proceeds from Is it equitable for you to take VAT proceeds
Continue.
to take VAT proceeds from a section of the country and give part of it to another section that does not even recognize where the proceeds are coming from? That, in my mind, is one part of inequity. A second one is that, we have balkanized the federation into various administrative units, local government, states, whatever you call them. So a state with maybe a lesser landmark mass than some other state, you give them 200 local governments, and then you divide money according to local governments and give them more. Is that equity? But from the perspective of the South-South, and you see this gives vent to part of what Yemi said earlier on, that PDP or APC are 6.5 there was the issue that was going around about 2-3 weeks ago, and I think maybe some leaders in the South-South alluded to it, that why is the gold from Zamfara state being mined and taken by the state government? Until we had some clarity on it lately, that was supposed to be the story, because we know that the oil in the bowels of the South-South has been what has been keeping this country afloat. Now the governor has said, no, that is not so. It's actually the federal government. They are even sending people and giving out licenses and all of that, which should be the real thing. But that just tells you the kind of schisms we are talking about. That governor in Zamfara state, who is from the PDP, went on to castigate his colleagues in the South-South and said, how can my own colleagues be saying this about me, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he's getting ready to pot, as it were, in the Nigerian parlance. But be that as it may, we also have to decentralize governance. That is one of the greatest problems we have about...
South-South governors are asking for state police.
Yes.
And,
you see, even before we
over the security in their region.
Those are constructs of restructuring, as it were. But I'm looking at the major aspects of it. You cannot micromanage Nigeria from Abuja. We've said that over and over. So that is part of it. And of course, the state police issue comes in there. And that was why you saw what happened in the case of the NSAS protest. And that was why the police were so incapable of doing anything. And when they reacted, it was the army that came in such a high-handed manner and all of that. If you ask me what I think, the IG of police made a statement which to my mind is actually actionable if is what is said, because basically he is definitely breaching the constitution of Nigeria by saying what he said, because we know that we are allowed a right of protest as long as it is free. But I want to go further to interpret it that what he actually meant, and I hope I'm saying it right, is that he's saying the police would not let a protest get that violent ever again. And to that extent, I thank him for that. So that will also mean the police working together with the state governments and making sure they don't go about trying to undermine peaceful protest and getting peaceful protest violence. Because that was exactly what Yemi said when he said we saw people in the bus, in Alausa, thugs, known thugs in Lagos that were coming to attack the peaceful protesters. So please, Mr. IG, I thank you. Those kind of issues are what the police should make sure never happens again. But if youths are sitting down somewhere and just peacefully waving the national flag, which is supposed to be a symbol, and then they start getting shot at, I wonder what really that is all about.
Let me go to Prof at this point. Prof, restructuring.
Let me begin with Sheik's submission, if I heard him well. And if I heard him well, if I understood him well. He said he's first a Nigerian, but South,
of South extraction.
I'm surprised that he's saying this. This type of submission is why Nigeria is always in trouble and will always remain permanently in trouble. the bitter truth is that people, you are firstly, someone from your place of birth.
No, but I gave a caveat to that, Prof. I said when I'm sitting on this chair, when I'm analyzing issues on Arise TV. Okay. That was the caveat to that.
Okay. When you visit Asaba and you are functioning as a chief, what's that your chieftaincy title again?
Not even when I'm visiting Asaba. When I'm looking at issues from Nigeria, especially the issues that Nigeria decides to cheat people of my extraction, I'm one of the most vocal people you can find.
You see, I raised this issue. If we admit, as an Undoman, for instance, the problem in Nigeria will have been solved more than 50%. But we purport to be what we are not. We purport to be Nigerians. When you know quite well that the notion, the concept of Nigerian does not even exist in practice, even at the level of the government. So why do we continue to deceive ourselves? A government of self-deceit can never make progress.
Prof, beware of hate speech.
It's not a question
of... That may be misconstrued as hate speech.
No, you see,
against Nigeria.
Rationalization will not solve the problem of Nigeria. You now ask me what is restructuring. Professor Bolaji Akinwande Akinyemi has simplified it. Restructuring, all right, on the basis of the meaning of federalism, is so clear. He defines federalism as limited authority, limited powers at the center. Right. By implication, more authority, more powers to the constituents, the constitutive states of Nigeria. That's the meaning. And when we now go back, he took us to 1957, 1959, the agreement upon which the peoples of Nigeria agreed to be independent and come together as a united country. It is on the basis of a constitution that provided for a true federal system. And they agreed on regionalism.
You're referring to the Macpherson Constitution,
precisely,
1951.
So now, even if you combine the 51 and 1954 all together, you will now discover that the founding fathers of Nigeria accepted to be united on the basis that there will be a federal system and then a federal state. But as of today, we do not have a federal state. We do not have, a true federal system working. The issue now is that what is the meaning of restructuring? Please, people can have 1 million definitions to restructuring. In the context of Nigeria, Shikogia gave us one element of the meaning: equity, fairness, justice. The Nigeria in which we find ourselves today, there's nothing like justice. There's nothing like fairness. Please, let's look at it empirically. Lopsided employment in DSS, Department of State Security, I read it in the paper as a scholar. When I read all these things and I verify, DSS has not come into the open to deny the report. You look at it now that you have, I think it was done from a record. It was on October 23rd, 2020, published in this day of October 23rd. Now you have 44 cadres for the entire 5 states in Southeast. 165 from Northwest, compared with 42 on South-South. But in Katsina, there were 51 cadres. Okay, 51 cadres from Katsina. That's from the state of the president. 51 cadres. Whereas you have only 44 cadres for the entire 5 states in the Southeast.
Prof, so let me say something to this, and this is very instructive. And that is why some people, their own version of restructuring is that let us get the right kind of leadership. Let us get the right Nigerian that would not do this kind of thing. That to them is their own.
That is expectation.
Yes, that to them is their own.
Look, the rule of law when people say they are surprised, it is like that.
Well,
Mr. President himself believes that national security should override rule of law. That's the priority. Whereas it is the rule of law that will govern, that should define national security, all these things. So restructuring is not simply about saying you are looking for fairness, etc. But
welcome to my channel. If this is your first time or first day of coming across my YouTube channel or seeing my face, you are highly welcome. Herzlich willkommen zu meinem Kanal. My name is Linda Chukwuezi. It comes as Miguel. That red button that says subscribe, and you turn on the notification bell so that you'll be able to get information on the.
Bis zum nächsten Video und einen schönen Tag. Tschüss.
Tschüss. Bis man subscribe to Linda's TV show. What are you waiting for? Click on that red button that says subscribe. You turn on the notification bell so that you'll be getting more updates from me. Leave your comment down below and share this video with your friends, families, and colleagues until we meet again in my next video. Bye bye.